So, you know what they say, right? If you can't beat them, join them. But I've also said that sometimes you don't have to join them. Sometimes you can start your own thing. And that is exactly what Tucker Carlson has decided to do. So Tucker Carlson made a huge announcement on Megyn Kelly's show about his next steps in reference to, trying to fight back against the censorship industrial complex and supporting media voices that are often suppressed or not allowed on mainstream networks. Tucker Carlson has decided to launch his own network. Not even just his own network, but his own freaking platform. I'm going to show you what it looks like in just a second. Now, politically, I don't agree with Tucker Carlson on a lot of things. I do agree with him in reference to free speech and the censorship issue. So this will be very telling. This will be very interesting to see what happens here, because you have Rumble, you have Rockfin. Although I know some people have told me that they don't like the app for Rumble and Rockfin. I've heard people say that. I guess I kind of get it, because if you're comparing it to YouTube, it's not quite the same. But Tucker Carlson has decided to do something, what I think is actually a better idea, by having his own platform. Let's go ahead and get started with this discussion here.
So that leads me to the big announcement today. So tell us what you're doing. The headline that we got from your team is you're launching a streaming service. And then I will be honest, I was like, what is a streaming service? Like, is that like Hulu when I go to my TV, or Apple or Netflix? Or explain what it means and describe the scope of it.
I'm about to make a river joke. There's nothing to do with streams. And as a trout fisherman, that makes me sad. No, it's simply bringing programming to you by subscription digitally. And we're going to be doing that for two reasons. One, X, which has just been an amazing venue for us and will continue to be our venue. And Elon Musk, really great to us. It's not set up for these videos, for example. If you put out a lot of content and we plan, that's exactly, or for subscriptions. I think it will be. I mean, there's a subscription function on X, and I think they're fine tuning it, and I think we're going to participate in that at some point, et cetera, et cetera. But just the way that it's structured, the nature of the app doesn't lend itself to like putting a big library right in front of you on one page. And we want to do that because we have a lot of stuff. And so it's a subscription model, just like any other streaming service or one of these companies with at the end. And the point is really simple. It's twofold. One, you want to bring a lot of material. I hate the word content. I'm trying to think of an option. A lot of material, a lot of news, a lot of facts, a lot of thoughtful opinions to people. You want a library, okay? We had a huge library where we worked before. We lost the whole thing. So we want to rebuild that. And second, you need some scale. I'm not a money person, as you said correctly. I probably should be a little more, but we live pretty simply, actually. So we don't. But anyway, you need to have a lot of people work for you if you want to gather the information. There are just too many things going on, and so in order to have, a staff capable of bringing a lot of information about what's happening right now, particularly in the next 12 months, which will reshape the world, in my view. You need to pay them, and you need to have a real company. And the downside is, of course, once you have a real company, then the stakes rise. If you're a lone person, whatever, you're more cat-like. You're like the Viet Cong. You can march 20 miles and sleep in a tree. But if you're a company, you're more a fixed position and a fixed target. So there is a downside to it. But we felt that we needed to do it because there's just a lot going on. So it's a subscription service.
So let me pause here for just a second. So basically what he's trying to do is what some other creators have chosen to do, and that is rely on subscriptions. So they're not relying on ad revenue. So for example, Breaking Points also has the option for you to actually subscribe off of YouTube. So you're like a subscription member, and then you get extra perks along with that, right? So more people have been moving towards that model just because the reality is here on YouTube, the way that it works in reference to ad revenue is is your content considered safe for advertisers? And that's how YouTube views a lot of these videos. That's why, like, for some people, you may not see ads, some you will, some just aren't monetized, but sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. If they demonetize a video, then not for copyright, but it will say not safe for advertisers. That's really what it's all about. However, the subscription model idea is becoming more and more popular. So in order to actually watch the videos on this service that he has, I believe some of them are going to be free. But I think if you want the full product, like there may be an interview and maybe part of that interview may be free. But if you want the full interview, you're going to have to pay a monthly subscription to get that. Rockfin has this option as well, where some people can actually pay, I think it's $9.99 a month, and they get access to a lot of the premium content on Rockfin, everyone's premium content on Rockfin as well. So this is becoming more popular. And again, this has to do with the censorship issue. We got to remember why he was removed from Fox in the first place. They didn't like some of the things that Tucker Carlson was talking about in reference to Ukraine. And I would also say, because he talked about what happened to the Uhuru movement, those activists that were arrested by the DOJ, I think that was another thing that sent off red alarms. So.
Okay. So, and to get it, people need to go to tuckercarlson.com right now. And as I understand it, they can sign up and they can have this subscription relationship with you for $9 a month or $72 a year. Something like that. And in addition, they can still get all the free, content on X and on an audio podcast that you're dropping.
Exactly. And the X stuff is not going away. And I've just been amazed by what a great platform it's been. And the main, I've noticed the scale of it. I'm sure coming from television, you see this too. It's like the number of people who watch is so dwarfs anything that's happening on linear television. It's like a different world. I know, it's amazing. But the thing that I really notice is how international it is. I mean, it truly is the world's last big free speech platform. I mean, it is that. And so there's something very appealing about that. We took 7 international trips this summer around the world. And I wanted to do that because I've been stuck in the studio for all these years and I hadn't done it in a long time, since the beginning of the war on terror, actually. And it just confirmed my belief that everything is changing so fast, particularly America's role in the world. And so we've got, this winter, we're traveling around the world to a bunch of different places. We've got a bunch of different interviews and stories that we're doing in various countries. And that's a huge feature of it. And that, a lot of that will appear on X. But you also sort of wonder, I like long form. You now do it for a living and you know how satisfying it is to talk to someone for more than 8 minutes. You sort of wonder, like, there's got to be a place that's easier to view than, social media are right now. And so some of that will go on X. And then if you're interested in some other features and documentaries, we're doing a bunch of documentaries. All of that is in the subscription service.
So this platform of Tucker Carlson is also going to have documentaries. Now, I'll show you what it looks like in just a second, but I'm curious to see if he's going to allow left voices onto this platform as well. Like, I don't think I can see him saying, like, no, you're leftist, you can't be on here. But I'm curious to see who is going to be a part of this platform. Right now, when I show it to you, the only thing you're going to see is Tucker Carlson on there. But that's because it just started, obviously. But imagine if that was like a space for voices of all different political ideologies, right? Like Truth Social is more so for conservatives. And everybody kind of has their space. But imagine if it was everybody. Like, imagine if you saw Tucker Carlson, you saw Rising on there. Imagine if you saw like Breaking Points on there. If you saw, even RBN, if you saw RBN on there, imagine what that could do. That you would have one space, just all political, all politics. People may not necessarily agree with everyone that's there, but it's one space that you can go to hear all these different views. Imagine that.
You know what this reminds me of, Tucker? I appeared at some media conference a year ago, and one of the main featured speakers was Mr. Beast. And Mr. Beast, he's incredibly successful. He's figured out the YouTube algorithm. Like, the head of YouTube was there talking about how he's spoken to this guy, Jimmy, and how he's not just some kid who got lucky on YouTube. Like he figured out the algorithm and started programming to it, and just everything exploded. I think he's got 200 million subscribers now. But one of the ways in which he did it was he appeals to a worldwide audience. He's gone beyond the United States of America, and he produces content that could be interesting across cultures, across languages, and so on. And that's kind of what I see you doing. You're like becoming the Mr. Beast of news.
Mr. Beast, by the way, at the closest grocery store to me, as soon as you walk in the door, you see like this island of Mr. Beast snacks. It's the first thing you see as soon as you walk in the door. And I'm like, Mr. Beast sells snacks. But yeah, Mr. Beast actually did work very hard to figure out the YouTube algorithm, right? But why even have to do all that? Like, that's the thing. I think that's something that Tucker's saying. Why even have to just rely on this freaking, algorithm? Now, I'm sure he's not going to allow a lot of shows to be on that platform, because again, you'd run into that same issue with the algorithm, right? Like which shows are up at the top and which shows are at the bottom. But I think this is a different way to go.
Well, I would say, that's a huge compliment because he's been so in the medium. I would just say two things. He works with YouTube. Okay. So he's actually sort of part of their business in a way. I'm not attacking that, but that's a little bit different from what we're doing. And I would also say that he's very self-consciously, non-offensive. He's trying to appeal to his wife. He's Disney
and
trying
you're the
to sell
opposite.
a movie in China. So, well, a little bit. Just by, not that I seek to offend people. I really don't. In fact, I think it's wrong to offend people for its own sake. I'm not giving the finger to old ladies at crosswalks. You know what I mean? I actually don't like to offend people.
No, but truth-telling in modern day America can be offensive.
Well, in the modern day world, what's happening in America looks very much like what's happening in half a dozen other countries I've been to in the last couple of months. It's the same template. The countries are becoming less democratic. They yelp about democracy constantly. Democracy, we're defending democracy. When in fact, they're creating permanent oligarchies with the help of technology. That's exactly what's happening. And again, not just here. The Anglosphere, they put people in concentration in Australia. They ended free speech in New Zealand and any right to self-defense. Like, these are countries that are becoming authoritarian. Canada killed, in the last few years, has killed over 40,000 of its own citizens through state-administered suicide. Like, there's all this amazing stuff.
Can anyone respond to that about Canada? I'm not sure about that. I don't know about that. But if anyone in the chat is Canadian, can you confirm that?
And so to push back against any of it immediately means you're going to be called, let me guess, a racist, and a bunch of other things too. And so it's kind of baked in the cake. Like, you're going to make people mad if you call them out on what they're doing. That's wrong. But that's kind of the whole point, is because we don't, and that really is the whole point of the subscriptions. It's like, I don't know how honest, I should probably be here, but Elon never offered me any money or anything, or to hire me or anything like that. But I love him. And I think he's wonderful. But it never occurred to me to ask to work for him, because the whole point is not working for anybody. That's like the whole point. And we turned down a couple of opportunities, very generous, and I think they were meant in the best spirit. But just the nature of that arrangement is something that at this stage of my life, I just don't want. I want to wait.
So I didn't know this at first until I saw this interview, but it appears he did receive other offers, but he chose not to take them. That was interesting.
Wake up and say to myself, you can say whatever you want, within the bounds of what you think is true, your own conscience, whatever, but I'm going to make those calls, and I'm going to do it without interference, period. And I'm going to tell the unadorned truth, and I hope gently and, in as least offensive way as I possibly can. But I'm going to tell that truth until the day I die. And I really mean that. And I'm going to try to do it in my personal life too. It's one of my things that I've resolved to do until I die, because I think that's the answer. I really do.
This is the only.
So the question that I have, notice what he said, he's going to be the one making those calls, right? So the question that I have is, who is funding this? Did Tucker Carlson use his own money to fund this platform of his? He could have. I don't know. But I'm asking because in the past, when people have decided to launch their own platforms or their own, news website, it has not been uncommon for them to accept billionaire money in order to do so. Glenn Greenwald and I had this discussion the very first time I interviewed him. He actually mentioned that it was a mistake to get billionaire funding for The Intercept, because at the time he said he thought that was a good idea. He was like, we had to get the money, right? But then later on, he started to realize with that money from billionaires, there's some strings that are attached. And who did they try to silence? They tried to silence Glenn Greenwald, who came up with The Intercept, right? They didn't want him to publish the Hunter Biden laptop story. That's why he left The Intercept. So my question is, who is funding this? And if I were to ever have the opportunity to speak to Tucker Carlson, I don't think that I would, but if I ever had the opportunity to speak to him, I would ask him about that. Who's funding it, Tucker? Because if it's attached to billionaire money, are you really going to be able to have full free speech? Just curious.
Only way for you. This is the only way forward. And if you zoom out, and then we looked at 94 at Tucker Carlson's career, when we look back at 53, which I think you were when the Fox decision came down, it will be the best thing that ever happened to you. It'll be a great thing for America. So. You know, you look at the stats. We just had numbers out today. In fact, my team pulled these for me, and I thought they were very interesting on what cable's doing, what broadcast is doing right now. And I know that, it's a dying business, but the stats actually show it. Just not for nothing, but take a listen to this. The headline at The Verge is, it's official. People are not watching TV as much as they used to. Linear TV now accounts for less than 50% of all TV usage. So, you got a TV in your house, you turn it on, you have all sorts of options. You can turn on cable, you can turn on your broadcast television networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, or you can go to Apple, you can go to Hulu, you can go to Netflix, you can go to Amazon Prime, or you can go to YouTube. You have all different Rumble. You have different options there now. And those different options are now dominating the more than 50%. Cable and linear television entirely, never mind news, are dying. So you've left a dying animal, and you've gotten on top of this new exciting horse, and you're going to ride it off into the sunset all the way to your dying day, Tucker. And I think you're going to be an important voice, even more so than you were.
One thing I will say too about mainstream news, not only that it's dying, yes it is dying, but I don't believe their numbers are real, and I felt this way for quite some time. I don't believe their numbers. Let me tell you something I saw. Right, there was a CNN stream right on YouTube, because those major networks also have channels on YouTube. Go figure, right? So I think it was CNN's Dash News or something like that. But they were live, and I saw they had like 200 people watching them live. Then all of a sudden, later on that same day, they apparently received like over 100,000 views when they had 200 people watching them live. Nah, bud. Hell, even I can tell you that. Nah. So I don't even believe those numbers. I think mainstream media has been inflating their numbers, and I think they've been doing that for quite some time. Now, this is what it looks like. So it's already published, and it's called TCN, Tucker Carlson Network. So Tucker named this after himself. He didn't Yes, look, you're going to be working for him, okay? Tucker named this after himself to let you know that if you're on this platform, you're going to be working for him. So it even says here, join Tucker team, unlock all new shows from Tucker and his team, exclusive interviews and investigations, trusted news commentaries, a direct line to Tucker and his team. Join now. By subscribing, you are agreeing to our terms of service and privacy policy. Had to say that part. So it just, this reminds me of something Oprah would do, because Oprah liked to name stuff after herself, but he wasn't playing around. So if you continue to look at it, it says must see videos. So right now, I think it's just him. Yeah. It's uncensored Owen Schroyer. There's Tucker Carlson Encounter, John Daly. There's the Dana White interview. Right now, it's just him, and that's because it just launched, obviously. But the most powerful interviews around the world, which is probably true because he's talked to some pretty high profile people. So it says fascinating people head to our cabin for real conversations. Is that Kid Rock? Is that Kid Rock? I think that is Kid Rock. Ball with the ball, the bang, diggy, 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 said the boogie, said up, jump the boogie. My name is Kid Rock. Sorry. And then there's the tour. Says Tucker in Hungary. I think this is Florida. Also Hungary again, Las Vegas. So what happens if I click? Let me see. Do I have to pay? Okay, so some things you don't have to pay for. Like right now, you can watch this. And then it says, what is TCN? I don't want to play this because I might get copyright. I don't know. And it says it is a new streaming platform that is home to exclusive all new content from Tucker Carlson. We will regularly be releasing new video content that tells the stories that matter and helps you make sense of the world around you. Because sometimes website videos have copyright. That's why I'm not playing it. And he talks about why they found it. He's talking about democracy can't function in a society like this. He's talking about repression and control. Join the movement. And then it says, watch Tucker so you can see uncensored encounter the interview. TC Shorts ask Tucker after the interview, sworn enemy tour, Tucker Carlson films. So I wonder if that's what I was wondering, like if he's going to allow other platforms to come to this network as well. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.